Welcome to the Rusted Garden Homestead. Today I want to explain to you how to use shade cloth. We'll go over everything you need to know to use it in your garden. So what does it do? Well, first of all, it provides shade, and here's what it does. Right in there is a cucumber plant. There's actually two of them. I just watered this area, so this is not a watering issue. It looks pretty good. The leaves are fairly erect. They're not flaccid. Basically, they have all the water pressure inside. When the hot sun comes, this is what happens to the leaves. They lose water pressure and they droop. And if you're getting 90-degree temperatures, mid-90s, day after day, your plant begins to get stressed. And this is what it does while the sun is out. This plant is not going to really progress, grow well, produce fruit. This is a cucumber plant. Same for squash, same for tomatoes, same for peppers. But I'm really talking about shade cloth for pepper and tomato plants, because when those temperatures get into the mid-90s, hundreds over in Arizona, southern states, your tomato plants, your pepper plants are going to drop flowers, they're going to drop fruit, they're just not going to produce. So you use shade cloth. Beneath the shade cloth, it's going to be 10 to 15 degrees cooler. That's why that cucumber looks pretty good. The soil temperature is going to be cooler, it's going to keep the roots cooler, and the plant's going to get the message that it's pretty good temperatures, that it can keep growing, and that it can keep producing. So when you're buying shade cloth, you have to think about the space. So right in here I have concrete mesh, just put in a U shape right in there, and I don't know the size of this, but you would just kind of measure out what you want. I have my sun track around this way. The morning sun comes in here. I can lift up that side. When you design the area that you're using shade cloth, I recommend putting it up in a way that it's easy to take down. So these are just clothespins. If I want to lift up this side, I can lift up this side. I can put another clothespin on there. Let's walk around to the other side because my southern sun is over here. It's the next day actually. I wanted to add some information to this video. So it's been cloudy, rainy since yesterday through this morning. The cucumber plant looks great. You can use shade cloth under really two conditions. You can use it to keep the soil cool for your cool weather crops. So when you're coming out of April, May, June, and it's starting to get warmer, the shade cloth will keep the soil cooler, and your lettuces, your radishes, your cool weather crops will continue to thrive and grow. They're not going to get that message because their roots are so warm to flower and to bolt. So it can extend the season for your cool weather crops. If you put peas or something in there, it would keep the pea plants cooler. They would continue to flower. They would continue to produce pods because of the shade cloth. Now, when that temperatures get into the 80s and they're pounding on your pea plants, they stop producing flowers, they stop producing. So you're using the shade cloth to extend the cool season. For the warm season, that's what we're talking about today. When those temperatures just get high into the mid-90s, the tomato plant, eggplant maybe, but the pepper plants go into survival mode. They just say it's too hot. My roots are too hot. The temperatures are too hot. I'm not going to produce. So we use the shade cloth to keep it cool that way. Shade cloth does help cucumber plants also. They tend to do better with some shade. You don't need it so much for squash or zucchini or anything like that. But I like using it for tomatoes and peppers and for my cucumber plants. Maybe it's not going to get up to that 95, 100 degree temperature today. Rather than taking down the whole thing, I can lift up this side because today it's going to be 88 degrees and I can let the sun in that way. So it's a real sensible use of the shade cloth. Now when you look at the shade cloth, you might not be able to see my hand in here because of the light, but it's woven, and sometimes it's more tightly woven, sometimes it's more loosely woven. Shade cloth will come in a number. So if you buy 10% shade cloth, that means that it's going to block 10% of the sun. So 90% of the sun will go through. I'm in Maryland Zone 7. On the East Coast, when we're getting our 90-degree, upper 90-degree temperatures, I recommend something that's 40-50% shade cloth. That will work really well. If you get a 40% shade cloth, it's going to block 40% of the sun, so 60% of the sun will go through here. Shade cloth doesn't make 100% shade, so this is not about growing vegetables that like the shade. This is about using it to reduce the amount of sun and heat that is hitting your plants. I hope that makes sense. So in this section, I'm going to grow some cool weather crops. I'm going to try radishes out here in July. I'm going to put in some purple top turnips, and I'm just going to keep this area much cooler. If you are in the southern states, you know, across Arizona where it's getting into the hundreds, I probably would recommend, well, I wouldn't probably, I do recommend a 60 or 70% shade cloth where you're blocking 60%, 70% of the sun so that only, 40% or 30% is getting through. That's plenty in these hot days. By keeping it 10, 15 degrees cooler under there, you're going to be able to extend the production period of your peppers and tomatoes, and they will continue to produce. So you can measure out this section. When you look up shade cloth, you just look it up online. Go to my Amazon links. There'll be shade cloth in there. It's in the video description. You can buy them in all different sizes and shapes. This one, I don't even remember when I bought it, but it was a little bit big. There's no point in really having the shade cloth back there, except I just didn't want it all up top. On this side, it does protect from the southern sun. This side is open again because my morning sun will come in here, and that's perfectly fine. So again, I'm using clothespins that if I wanted to close this over, I would drop the flap down. Real simple to use, and then I use the clothespin obviously to keep it up. If you can, I believe, I don't know, my memory's terrible. I think these are called grommets, but they're just metal rings that are in here. And if you buy the right size, you can just use hooks like this and then just slip on the shade cloth. It's nice and easy to take down. If we were getting like maybe 75-degree temperatures or something crazy, I could just pop these off, pull the shade cloth all the way down, hang it over the side, let the full sun get down here. You just want to make sure you set this up in a way that's easy to put up and take down. If you don't have these rings in there, you can just bunch up a side of the shade cloth, tie some string around it, close it off, and then use some heavier string. I just make a big long loop, knot it down here, and then I can just put this right onto the ring. So you can see that it's set up nicely. And then I do the same thing coming across this way. Here is another example. So if your temperatures are in the 80s and you get like a 90-degree day here or there, you probably don't need shade cloth. But when you're getting 3-4 consecutive days of the high heat, the sun is beating down on your tomatoes and pepper plants, they are going to shut down. What your shade cloth is doing again is providing shade, reducing the sun, keeping it 10 to 15 degrees cooler around the plant. It's keeping the soil cooler, and that will allow your plant to think, hey, the temperatures are right, I can keep producing, I can keep growing, I can thrive. As we were talking, some clouds are rolling in, so you can see that this plant is starting to perk back up. Shade cloth keeps that sun from beating down on your plants and really slowing down their production. If you have any questions, please leave me a note in the comments. I will answer them, but it's pretty straightforward. To stress again, if you buy 70% shade cloth, you're blocking the sun by 70%, so only 30% of the sun is getting through. Hope this is helpful. Give it a try in different parts of your garden. I think you'll be impressed on how reducing the temperature by 10 or 15 degrees with a 50% shade cloth really makes a difference. Thanks for watching. Please check out my seed shop at therustedgarden.com, and you can find some links to shade cloth in my Amazon store in the video description. Enjoy the day.